Welcome to our presentation on the Educator evaluation system. Teachers and administrators have come together to put together this important program, as well as to put together this tool that all of us will be using in the future. I'd like to introduce the committee. First, Marcia Haar, LEA President, Karen Rafferty, second grade teacher at Blueberry Center, and Michael Sullivan, Assistant Superintendent for Learning. I'd like to start off by talking a little bit about the overview and where this is all coming from. The Department of Education requires that Race to the Top districts have an educator evaluation system. As members of RTTT, we are obliged to go forward and be one of the first to bring together the evaluation system. The system has 4 major components, 4 performance standards, and 35 performance elements. The annual performance goals are student learning and educator practice, district-determined measures of student learning, growth and achievement, and student, possibly parent surveys. There are 8 parts to the educator evaluation tool, and they are regulated by the state, and that's where they've come from. The first is District Level Planning and Implementation Guide. This is where we develop the rubrics, the tools, resources, and model contract language. We've been working on that over the past 2 years. It includes evaluation systems for superintendents, principals, teachers, and other licensed staff. School-level planning and implementation guides needs to be done. It explains the requirements of the regs, and it gives guidance and templates. For example, there are 5 components to this. All of us need to come up with a self-assessment, goal setting, implementation and collect evidence, formative assessment, and summative assessment. The third piece of the educator evaluation tool is guide to rubrics and model rubrics. They may use the state's templates, or we may devise our own. Fortunately, Longmeadow was ahead of the curve because we have developed some, and we've been working off of those tools. The superintendent, building level administrator, teachers, specialized instruction personnel like special education, and specific roles like guidance need to all come up with evaluation templates. Next, collective bargaining is required. 5, implementation guide for the principal's evaluation. Part 6, implementation guide for superintendents. Part 7, impact on student learning using district-determined measures. And Part 8, staff and student feedback in process. That publication will be in July 2012. My colleagues will give more information about many of these pieces as we continue with our presentation. At this time, I'd like to introduce Marcia Haar, LEA President.
Thank you, Marie. The process of evaluation began 6 years ago with the establishment of a joint LEA and administrative committee to overhaul and improve the evaluation tool in Longmeadow. As Marie has already stated, the state of Massachusetts applied to become a Race to the Top state. The state's application was successful, and Longmeadow was a signatory to the application. Therefore, we are required to implement the state-certified evaluation in September of 2013. In anticipation of all of this, your evaluation committee has been working diligently to ensure compliance with the new standards. I, along with Karen Rafferty, Michael Sullivan, Marie Doyle, Rita Hawker, Marie Pratt, and a former teacher, Karen Shea, have attended numerous state-sponsored workshops and informational sessions. In addition, I have participated in MTA workshops around the state to ensure that our evaluation tool meets state requirements and protects our rights under our collective bargaining agreement. Because of our foresight into improving our own evaluation tool, we are far ahead of many other districts, but there is still much work to be done.
Thank you. And now, Karen?
We talked about district-determined measures. The state of Massachusetts Department of Education requires our teacher evaluation to include 2 measurements of student assessment. If your class takes MCAS, these will be one of the measures used. These classes will need to determine another one. If you do not teach an MCAS class, 2 district-determined measures will be decided. The evaluation committee has known about these requirements and has planned for this. We've already met to lay out a framework for teachers and administrators to collaboratively work toward determining what these assessments will be. Michael sent out an email asking for volunteers to help discuss and create these district-determined measures. Get involved, help out. We're fortunate to have direct input into what will be used to evaluate our students' progress. Thank you.
And now I pass it to Mr. Michael Sullivan, Dr. Michael Sullivan.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm going to speak a little more directly like it's the marching orders for our groups of volunteers, or not so voluntarily. Anyway, our folks that are coming together to do this work this spring in our series of half-day release days. So, and we're going to provide these. We have PowerPoint slides that we'll give paper copies to the groups when they meet. But I'll start by reading from the first slide we have. So what are district-determined measures? It's important to kind of nail down the specifics here. And this is from the department's regs. Measures of student learning, growth, and achievement related to the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. These measures may include, but shall not be limited to, portfolios, approved commercial assessments, district-developed pre- and post-unit tests, or entire course-long assessments. Also capstone projects. So they are basically saying we have, it's up to us, districts, to decide how it is we're going to come up with the district-determined measures, which is helpful, but is kind of pretty wide open. So here's their specific instructions to us as a race to the top district. It says, by September 2013, all districts must identify and report to the Department of Ed a district-wide set of school performance measures for each grade and subject that permits comparison of student learning gains. So we have to come up with comparable data about student learning gains. And by the way, this isn't just about teachers, it's for all professional staff. We're going to be have to measure student growth and improvement for counselors and psychologists and everybody else too, not just the traditional teachers. Okay, so a couple of just reminders to you about the context of this work that you have to do. Our group, the committee here, recognizes that there's going to be a huge learning curve for this work. We want to underscore the word pilot about this, because this is something that's definitely going to change in the years ahead, and we just want to kind of get it off the ground. We have to get it off the ground starting this September. So we're not expecting everyone's going to get it right away, and that it won't go without being changed. The next thing I wanted to mention is that we decided to use small groups of teachers, and some of you are going to meet initially as a K-12 group, like the specialist teachers in phys ed and art, for example. But then we expect after a few minutes of wrestling with this together, you'll probably spend most of the morning or afternoon working by grade level to pick out specific assessments. But we thought there'd be value in allowing you to have an initial vertical conversation before you really got into it. So you'll have a half a day, and your charge is to see if you can come up with these two measures, if you need two measures, and if you've got the MCAS growth scores available, then it would just be one measure. And I did want to mention, the group asked me to reemphasize that, if we get tripped up and we run into issues about how to do this, or there's differences of opinion about how to do this, any final decisions kind of will rest with the collective bargaining process. And so it's owned jointly by teachers and admin, this process. So we're actually excited about the fact that it's collaborative. So here's a couple questions you'll have to address first thing when you get started. The first one is, should the growth measures that you come up with, should they be a series of measurements over the course of the year, 2 or 3 or more times, like you'd have a pre-test and a unit assessment at the end of a unit? Are you going to do it like that over a few times a year, or do you want to have a pre-assessment in September and another one in June and cover the whole year in a single measure? So that's going to be something that you'll have to decide, and we're not feeling we're in a position to kind of tell you which way to do that just yet, and we'll see how it goes. The second thing is we really want to emphasize that the student growth or impact measure that you come up with be meaningful, and to the extent possible, not an add-on thing to do, but an extension of the kind of work that you're already doing collaboratively with your peers. And so if there are good common assessments or portfolios or performance-based measures that you've got in your courses, and you can find a way to gather pre-unit or pre-unit or pre-course measures of that, that would be fine and would probably be a really good way to go. And so the last thing I wrote this down on the flyer here as an exit ticket. So your exit ticket for the work for this day will be to select or develop 2 measures of impact for student impact on student learning, excuse me, and then. Well, as I guess I just said this already, where MCAS student growth scores exist, those would be one of the 2 measures. And we are looking to have you leave your work today with some specific things ready to be piloted for next year, or as close to that as you can get. So that's my attempt to pull it together a little bit.
Thank you. All of us at Longmeadow continually think about eyes on the child, as we want what's best for our children. Some of you have said to me and to our team that this feels rushed. It feels like there's a lot coming at you at one time, and we fully understand that. We'd like you to remember that this is coming from the state, the timelines are coming from the state, and we're doing our best to help you do this in a way that you can possibly get it done. That's the reason we've used release time to have you come together to do district-determined measures, because we really, really want your input into this. We don't want to have administrators creating them and then you having to follow them. So please do get involved. It's going to take teamwork to get this done. It's going to get teamwork as we begin to look at student growth. We look at MCAS scores, and we really have to use measurements where we're going to be accountable not only to the district and the state. Together we can do this, and together we can make sure that all children get the best education possible. Thank you.